E la cintura?
Non ce l'ho.
È un grosso rischio. Ricordati sempre di allacciare la cintura di sicurezza e falla allacciare anche a chi sta dietro. Guidare non è uno scherzo. Va bene?
Cardinal Sarah talks about volunteers, the only engine of international solidarity. The Libyan crisis erupts into the meeting with the words of Franco Frattini, the Italian Minister of Foreign Affairs. Christians, Jews and Muslims, different experiences are discussed in Rimini. Subsidiarity, pillar of the Italy that was born 150 years ago. Italians who keep on believing in the future, a face-to-face discussion between Mario Calabresi and Alessandro D'Avenia.
The experience of certainty makes the human being happy and optimistic when confronted with difficulties, and makes the construction of the common good for our country possible. It helps man to be open to the reality of all religious experiences in an ecumenical way. It is the beginning of a friendship amongst peoples. The talk with Napolitano showed that certainty opens and builds, and it is not simply an ending point. Giving oneself to others is a need that everybody possesses in the depth of his heart. The Cardinal Robert Sara opened his intervention with this statement at the talk this afternoon at the Rimini meeting. During the talk centered around volunteer work, he explained, "We have to overcome the doubt that oppresses society, so we can finally obtain the certainty of being loved in every moment." According to Sara, this is the one certainty that can move the human being. "Freely you get, so freely you give," is the main exhortation of the Cardinal to the people at the meeting.
Freely you got, so freely you give.
Along with the African Cardinal participated Roberto Fontolan and Alberto Piatti. The president of AFSI, Piatti, said, "We are not the humanitarian crutch of this new religion celebrated at the United Nations building. What is important to us is a free and moving gift of oneself."
For sure, the two encyclical letters that the Pope gave us are a gift and represent a certain authority.
Far from a banal philanthropy, Piatti went straight to the title of the talk. Volunteer work is not simply a begging for pity, but a commitment to education that is the true source of development. Volunteer work exemplifies God's love and compassion, because where man suffers, God suffers with him. It is true that people are limited in their capacity to help, but I heard of many young people that go to Africa and Asia, where many people suffer and that do not have the opportunity to receive a proper education. A young Catholic gives his time and his life because he has already received this love that he brings to others.
The consequences of the Arab Spring are not yet clear, but certainly the most recent events have marked the end of a cycle that few people thought possible could turn to a new direction. These are the words of Franco Frattini, the Italian Minister of Foreign Affairs, who today at the meeting confirmed Italy's position against Gaddafi's regime and its commitment in Libya. The talk was about the situation in North Africa, where the revolts in the squares have caused the entire Middle East to be in turmoil in the last months. The Secretary General of the Arab League, Nabil El Arabi, in the last speech has reminded us that building democracy is a challenge that requires time, commitment and devotion. In the past years, the Rimini meeting didn't waste time, but has kept strong its connection with the other side of the Mediterranean, where it met friends like Wael Farouk, now vice president of the last edition of the Cairo meeting. This experience has strengthened the commitment to dialogue through a concrete gesture.
The central theme of the Minister of Foreign Affairs' talk at the Rimini meeting was Libya. Frattini's words express worries, but also signals of hope.
The National Transitory Council has agreeable programs and projects. First of all, it has a plan towards the approval of a Libyan constitution. Today, they need help from the Western community and from the Arab world. For this reason, Italy will advance a consistent amount of money even though the international funds of the regime were not unfrozen. We will advance it as a sign of trust and friendship, and when the funds will be unfrozen, the debts will be refunded.
Meanwhile, rumors about Gaddafi regime's manipulation of the facts concerning the victims of the fights and immigration flows have been confirmed.
Some of these facts are already public on national Libyan television. They concern the orders given by the regime in order to dissimulate the corpses to make it seem as though the NATO raids were responsible, whereas they were actually killed by the regime. Many facts about immigration were not made public, and so they confirm what we all knew. The boats of the hopeless going to Italy were organized by the regime. It seems impossible, especially in the Middle East. The director of the Elijah Interfaith Institute, the Rabbi Goshen Gutstein, comes from Jerusalem to the meeting to share his experience. The target of the institute is to facilitate interfaith dialogue. This happens through the study of saints and other charismatic characters found in the different religions.
The Institute is about bringing together the world's religious communities to share their wisdom as a way of making peace. Our motto is sharing wisdom, fostering peace.
What's the religious experience shared by Christians and Jews?
God is the common basis of all experiences. Different religious traditions experience Him differently, but there's only one God. The message you give is not an explicitly spiritual message, but it's informed by a spiritual message. So because it's not explicitly religious, it allows everyone to find his place, and that way it enriches people culturally, humanly, but also at the root of it, religiously. And this is a very interesting strategy for me. That has different religions, different cultures, different everythings, and then to see if that makes a difference. It's an experiment worth conducting.
My intent is to carry out his work and his fight to defend the weakest people. I keep on doing his work with the means available to me.
Paul Bhatti is the brother of the Minister of Pakistan, assassinated last March by Islamic terrorists. In front of the people of the meeting, he talks about his own story, his fears, and his new commitment. On the stage, 4 other Christian politicians say why committing yourself is worth it. In your opinion, what's the difference between a Christian and a non-Christian in politics?
The challenge is in facts. It is in facts that you can verify if the Christian method is more efficient than other methods or not. As a point of reference, I chose the Christian social doctrine and the principle of subsidiarity. A Christian in politics must do everything for others and give himself for others. This means that you can't tell people what they want to hear from you, but you must tell the truth. I think that the true role of a Christian in politics is to announce Christ and not to be better or more honest than others, because this is everyone's duty. The true role is to announce the presence of Christ.
This is the 3rd time you've come to the Rimini meeting. What do you think about this event?
I think the Rimini meeting offers hope for people, for religious people everywhere, because what Catholics do via the movement at this meeting is they have total formation of human beings. There's almost total formation of Catholic persons via the meeting.
Celebrating 150 years of Italian unification and telling the story of a people through the Italian Risorgimento, the First World War, the First Republic, and the economic boom until the current crisis with all its issues. This sums up the exhibit entitled 150 Years of Subsidiarity that was included in the official state celebration of the event.
Since mid-October, we began our research in different sectors of the legal field. I focused on the writing of the Constitution.
How many university students worked with you?
There were more or less 100 of us.
How was the exhibit connected to the title of the Rimini meeting?
It made us more certain about the history of Italy and therefore about our own history, which means we are more certain about our future since we are aware of what happened in the past.
150 years of stories of people involved in social associations, education, and charity have once again enlightened the spirit of unity present in our history. The Christian realism of politicians like Alcide de Gasperi, the view of entrepreneurs such as Enrico Mattei, as well as the persistence of the normal people ready to work hard for the reconstruction of what World War II had destroyed. A new birth that continues even today, since the forces that change history are the same as those that change the hearts of man.
The Arab Spring, as it will be remembered in history, represents the turning point in the geopolitical structure of Middle East. New possibilities are opening up in the relationship with Western countries, also in terms of interreligious dialogue. Non-profit organizations are in a good position to look at the current change.
Certainly, the final result will be a wider pluralism, because these revolutions have introduced a much broader variety to the public sphere.
After Tunisia and Egypt, Libya, with Gaddafi's fall, along with Syria's and Assad's violent repression, are the two hotspots of the Arab Revolution.
Therefore, we should be concerned about making dialogue our first concern, even if the recent news about repression and attacks aren't pointing in this direction.
True Rockstar audience gathered to welcome the journalist Mario Calabresi and the writer Alessandro D'Avenia. Together they share a dialogue without limits in order to understand what keeps the stars shining. In a country reduced to complaints, the book is a collection of stories and visions that urge one to pursue the extent of what the heart desires.
Especially because the situation is so difficult and complicated, it is necessary that people involve themselves much more and build a hypothesis for the future, and actively begin to not abandon their hearts.
The book comes from Amal's question: why do they want to convince us to settle and not to dream great things? Amal is now 13, she was born in Morocco, but she lives in Italy where she's already at the top of her class and she wants to become a surgeon.
Here lies Paulus Semplicis Marone, born in Rimini under the Emperor Augustus. He lived in Rome where he became a cook at the school of Attigio. He was the greatest chef of the ancient world. I've always been working as a cook in the kitchen. I'm not the smartest. I'm from Emilia-Romagna. It is like I was born 2,000 years ago, and this was my story. You understood well. I am the cook of the second to last supper. It is the story of a simpleton who did not understand anything. This famous Jesus, I had the chance to actually meet him. From that moment on, his life changed, even though he was a simpleton. I had some meetings that were special. They were like turning points.
Does the show also speak about certainty?
Yes, it does, because you cannot laugh if you don't have certainty. My soul was another thing before. You can laugh even if you're a loser, but it is a bitter laugh, like yogurt. You know when it goes bad. It is still yogurt. You can eat it, but it is unpleasant. Instead, laughter arises when one is in a good place. He's happy. When life smiles at him.
Il riso nasce quando uno sta dritto, è felice, la vita gli ride in fronte.
You've been a friend of the meeting for many years. What is your opinion of it?
My opinion of the meeting? I can say one sentence. Now, when I look back 10 years ago, I cannot imagine any other life, a part of this life which is completely involved and mixed with everything in meeting Rimini.
And from this experience, you've also produced the meeting in Cairo. Could you tell us about this event and what it means for your country?
In fact, this event was extraordinary event because at this time Egypt had suffered a lot from the sectarian tension, conflict between Muslims and the Christians, and inside this very bad atmosphere, hundreds of young Muslims and the Christians were working together in order to represent a different face of Egypt. Of course, we were very much close to the experience of meeting Rimini, because meeting Cairo is nothing but a result of our friendship and our experience with meeting Rimini. Our meeting Cairo was just 2 months before the Egyptian revolution, so I can say with complete confidence we have enjoyed before anybody else in Egypt all beautiful things of the Egyptian revolution, beauty and unity and all other things was realized in meeting Cairo, and after was repeated in a very huge way in everywhere in Egypt.
And after this Arab Spring, in the new situation, will you repeat this event of the meeting in Cairo, and will there be any changes to it?
Of course, there will be a lot of changes, because the event itself has striked a lot of Egyptians before revolution. After the event, hundreds of people came to ask how can we be part of what we are doing now. And during revolution, we were part of the movement in revolution. But after the revolution, and as we saw here in meeting Rimini this year, the Al-Azhar, the Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, all of them are willing, and in fact there is a sort of competition now between them in order to offer and to support more meeting Cairo. So I think meeting Cairo 2012 is going to be even a bigger manifestation of this friendship and this experience.
Okay, and my last question is there a way for Western countries to help in the Arab Spring situation and the
yes,
situation
definitely.
in Egypt?
Now there is a lot of fears, a lot of questions, a lot of mystery about the Arab Spring and about the role of West in this Arab Spring. And I say, as a person who has lived what was before revolution and who has lived the revolution and who has for many years involved in a very deep friendship with West, I can say the best that West can give to Arab Spring is to be faithful to its values, its human values, and its human rights, which is the fruit of the Western civilization. If they be more faithful to their values, they will give the example, because what we need is not money, is not economical support, is not political support for liberals. What we need is a true example, a trusted example for us, and this is what West can give us.
E la cintura?
Non ce l'ho.
È un grosso rischio. Ricordati sempre di allacciare la cintura di sicurezza e falla allacciare anche a chi sta dietro. Guidare non è uno scherzo. Va bene?